storm
The storm this time,
是特別嘅 storming。
this is a very different
耶
instance
穌
of
唔
a
是
storm.
責備黃鷹，
It's not really the storm per se that he was
耶
rebuking.
穌是責備黃鷹後邊一款嘅 power，一款嘅力量。
He was actually rebuking the forces at the back behind the particular storm.
一款係黃鷹是對撒旦嚟嘅。
This kind of storm came from the devil.
你如果讀呢段聖經讀落去，
If you read through the next passage,
到第個照第一節，
the moment we reach the 5th
Mark.
chapter of Mark,
你發現群喺耶穌一擺借準高職嘅所在，為的是佢掛歸。
we realize that Jesus' destination, this boat ride, was to go and cast out the devil.
佢嘅魔鬼無愛耶穌去，
This time, it's very clear, Satan didn't want Jesus to be there.
魔鬼喺這度黃鷹嚟阻擋耶穌登行嘅路。
The devil wanted to use a storm to stop Jesus on his way.
喺你人生嘅裏面，
In our lives,
有時咱對到困難，
in our difficult times,
對到人生嘅風暴嘅時
these are
陣，
our turbulent times.
無多都是咱行唔對嘅時陣，
Sometimes it's not that we went wrong.
有多啊相反，
Sometimes on the
是
contrary,
咱行對路嘅時陣，
we are actually right there on the spot, on the
撒
very right
旦就
path.
嚟搞慘咱，
Then Satan would disrupt us.
就嚟攻擊咱。
This time they would attack us.
但係有一個，我雖然見啦，就聽一個真真水嘅聖詩，雖然見啦，
When I was a kid, I heard this beautiful, this lovely Sunday school song.
就是背上這個歌數所寫一個聖詩。
And it's based on this particular passage of the
你
Bible.
講有主佇我嘅船頂，我就未驚黃鷹，未驚黃鷹，未驚黃鷹。
That's the song. If God is in my vessel, I will not be afraid of storm.
有主佇我嘅船嘅裏面，我就未驚黃鷹。佇高啲天堂嘅裏面，
This time I won't be afraid of storm. I will smile at the storm till I reach heaven's home.
你不聽呢隻歌喎？
I'm sure you are familiar with this song.
有人無？咱教戲子人差不多曉唱。這個歌真真水。
This song is a lovely song.
你講有主在我船上，我就不怕風浪，不怕風浪，不怕風浪。有主在我船上，我就不怕風浪，直到岸的天涯。要啊要回家，要啊要回家。有主在我船上，我就不怕風浪，直到岸的天涯。我識得歌無？呀，水嘅歌。我咱嚟三角手，三角手，三角手還加你手，1 2 3。有主在我船上，我就不怕風浪。不怕風浪，不怕風浪，有主在我船上，我就不怕風浪，直到岸的天涯。要啊要回家，要啊要回家，有主在我船上，我就不怕風浪，直到岸的天涯。你解拍拍啊，攞你。有時咱嘅人生嘅中間，都着面對到上帝嘅困難。
This time in our lives, there are many turbulent and violent times.
這個唔是上帝嚟嘅，
But sometimes it's not God's plan or will for that.
是撒旦對咱嘅攻擊。
It actually came from Satan.
但是只有主喺你嘅船嘅裏面嘅時陣，
But only when God is in your vessel,
就斥責黃鷹，
then it will rebuke the storm for you.
黃鷹就停止咯。
Then the turbulent times will be over.
但是有第三個可能性，
There is a third possibility.
有時咱遵行上帝旨意嘅時陣，黃鷹就嚟咯。
Sometimes when we do God's will, the turbulent time arises.
就是今日你所讀嘅聖經。
And this is the passage that we just read.
為什麼耶穌喺海面頂行路呢？
Why was Jesus walking on the water?
因為當時門徒喺大海中間，都係一個真正大嘅 storm。
Because the disciples who were aboard the ship, they were amidst a big storm.
耶穌佢這個所在要拯救門徒。
Jesus was there to save the disciples.
但是你叫第14章嘅第22節，
When you go to Matthew 14, chapter 14, verse 22,
先講耶穌趕門徒去準，先到這個所在去。
immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat. It literally means he hurried them to the boat.
這個趕嘅這個 urge， 這個是一個原本一個真正緊張、真正急、真正強嘅動詞。
In the original statement, there was the word urge, a sense of making them hurry up and go into the boat.
意思講一個人本來無愛去，強拄這個去，叫。
The analogous instance was this person did want to, you're urging, hurrying up the person to go.
門徒無愛去，
The disciples didn't want to get into the
但
boat,
係耶穌強叫。
but Jesus was urging them to go into the boat.
但當門徒哋準喺裡面嘅時陣，
When the disciples were in the boat,
耶穌無去準，
Jesus was not in the boat.
耶穌就去山頂祈禱。
Jesus was in the mountainside praying.
當門徒哋準喺裡面嘅時陣，
When the disciples were in the vessel,
忽然間風暴就嚟咯。
then there was a violent storm.
這個是真，可能真真更加明白嘅代志。
This is something quite incomprehensible.
門徒明明照上帝旨意去這準，
Because this time, the disciples did as Jesus
門
commanded.
徒明明追耶穌愛追嘅代志，
This time, the disciples did as Jesus wanted.
這唔是應該當真順利，
Shouldn't it be supposed to be something that's very smooth
這唔是
sailing?
呢？
Shouldn't it be?
詩篇第一篇第三節，凡你所作嘅朗不順利。
But isn't it promised in Psalm that everything that you do will be done
這
very
唔是
nicely?
教會特特安尼講，
Don't we always say,
你若好聽主，
if you love God,
好奉獻，
if you serve God,
上帝要祝福你，
then He shall bless you
就要照顧你。
and He will take care of you.
為什麼咱對着人生真最患難？
And then why do we encounter life's
但你
violent
睇佢
moments?
聖經對創世記讀到啟示錄，
The moment you turn the Bible from Genesis till Revelation,
你的確發現這樣代志。
you will notice something.
真最嘅上帝旨意人對着真最患難。
There were many people who were in the midst of God's will. They encountered so much trouble.
這是 Joseph 嘅故事。
The first one was, of course, Joseph's story.
Joseph 喺心裏面就一家己將來最貴嘅家族嘅頭，
Joseph, in his dream, he knew that he's going to be the head, the patriarch of the clan.
但係 Joseph 佢可以兄弟回去埃及最落嚟13年嘅時間。
Yet, Joseph was sold by his brothers down to Egypt, and for 13 years he was a slave.
這個人盡行上帝旨意，這家固最落嚟13年嘅時間。
This person is right there in the midst of God's will, yet he was imprisoned, he was enslaved for 13 years.
這是摩西嘅故事。
The other is the story of Moses.
摩西真係是上帝所建立拯救猶太人嘅領袖，
Moses realized that he is going to be the leader of the Jews.
等佢接受上帝呼召以後，
When he took up the ordainment,
佢頭一擺去看 King Pharaoh 嘅時陣
the first time he met King Pharaoh,
，Let my people go。
then he told Pharaoh, let my people go.
結果呢
In the end,
，Pharaoh 唔那是冇好猶太人出去，
not only did Pharaoh say no,
個苦毒猶太人，
he in fact maltreated the Jews some more.
結果特個人真生氣摩西，
That's why many people were so mad at
我就
Moses.
是厲害嘅，就是厲害嘅。
You're actually the reason why we are suffering.
Moses
This is the story of
照
Moses.
上帝旨意去見 Pharaoh 嘅時陣，
He was actually walking the commandment of God.
猶太人冇得到拯救，
The Jews were not immediately saved.
覺得到真罪嘅患難。
In fact, they were maltreated some more.
這個人行上帝嘅旨意，
Moses, he did God's will.
並唔是一帆風利。
It's not a smooth sail.
這個是大衛嘅故事。
The third is David's story.
大衛真年輕就受膏立，就係做猶太人嘅君王。
At a very young age, David was already ordained to be the king of Israel.
但是第一朝差不多20年嘅時間，受掃羅嘅追殺，流浪啲埃及，即係曠野特嘅所在。
But for 20 years, he was being persecuted heavily by Saul, and he was wandering in the wilderness.
這是大衛嘅故事。
This is the story of David.
這是尼希米亞嘅故事。
The fourth one is Nehemiah's story.
佢哋波斯王宮裏面最 cupbearer 酒精嘅工作，
He was a cupbearer of the Persian Empire.
為咗聽上帝，
For the love of God,
幫殺 cupbearer 嘅工作，
he gave up the position of a cupbearer.
到去耶路撒冷重建上帝嘅聖朝。
He went back to Jerusalem to rebuild the wall.
但是
However,